Archaeologists from Wessex Archaeology have uncovered the remains of what may be an earlier solar-aligned monument on the Salisbury Plain near Bulford, predating Stonehenge by several centuries. Although the discovery was made some time ago, recent research has confirmed its astronomical significance. An intriguing artifact found close by might even have symbolized the sun. I contacted Wessex Archaeology and they sent me some incredible videos, images and animations on the Bulford Discovery. Further information on the research is due to be published, but until then, let's talk about what they've released so far on this incredible find. The Bulford site was discovered during archaeological investigations linked to military development work around 5 kilometres east of Stonehenge. Excavations carried out by Phil Harding and his team at Wessex Archaeology between 2015 and 2017 uncovered 48 pits containing pottery, animal bones, charcoal and flint artifacts. Radiocarbon dating showed that these features were in use around 2950 BCE. This is an image of a pottery fragment that was found in one of the pits. The contents of these pits suggest that people were gathering here for communal feasting and other ritual activities. That alone would make the site an interesting addition to the prehistoric landscape of Salisbury Plain. But among the dozens of pits, 2 stood out from all the rest. These were much larger than the others, each measuring around 1 meter in diameter. Archaeologists concluded that they had once held substantial wooden posts, positioned roughly 120 meters apart and creating a possible alignment. And it was only after the excavation that the full significance of their position became apparent. Dr. Fabio Silva, a skyscape archaeologist from Bournemouth University, analysed the alignment formed by the 2 posts. His research showed that the line between them points towards the sunrise on the summer solstice in one direction and the sunset on the winter solstice in the other. These animations illustrate these orientations. This is a remarkable discovery because it suggests that Neolithic people at Bulford were deliberately marking the solstices around 5,000 years ago, using timber posts in much the same way that Stonehenge would later use its great sarsen stones. An extremely rare disc-shaped knife was also found in one of the pits. Wessex Archaeology suggests the pit may have been a viewing station of sorts, and that the knife had been placed there intentionally and was meant to symbolize the sun disk. This illustration depicts what a solstitial celebration at Bulford might have looked like, with the 2 timber posts playing a central role. I've been a huge fan of Phil Harding, who led the discovery since his Time Team days. Here's a video of him talking about his personal feelings on Bulford.
When I first discovered this, or realised that what I actually had was that important, it was like a kid in a toy shop. It was one of those giggle moments, and I just really could not believe that what I'd lived with for at least 3 years, unconfirmed, had now been confirmed. I reckon it's probably one of the greatest finds of my career. It is that important to me. It really is.
We already know that Stonehenge was part of a pretty interesting prehistoric landscape, where the remains of long barrows, Cursus monuments, timber and stone circles, and Neolithic settlements have been found, not to mention the intriguing massive 10-metre wide pits near Durrington Walls that may have formed a circle measuring 1.9 kilometres in diameter and whose function can only be guessed at. So it's no surprise that more prehistoric monuments lurk in the area just waiting to be discovered. And remember that Stonehenge itself was never a single construction project. It evolved over many centuries with successive generations modifying and expanding the site. The newly studied monument near Bulford therefore adds another important piece to the puzzle, offering a glimpse into the ideas and traditions that may have existed before Stonehenge took shape. Monuments don't just land from nowhere. As I've said before, there's usually a gradual cultural development that predates them and influences the form that they take. And when we consider other recent Stonehenge research, such as the discovery that Stonehenge's altar stone originated in Scotland, whilst the blue stones were transported from Wales, a picture emerges of prehistoric Britain as a surprisingly connected world. Across hundreds of kilometres and many centuries, people were moving materials, exchanging ideas, and creating monuments on a scale that still impresses us today. Bulford is also home to the buried remains of two late Neolithic penannular henges overlooking the 9 Mile River. These monuments were constructed during the same period that Durrington Walls and Woodhenge were being built, and when the great sarsen stones were first erected at Stonehenge. In this interview, Dr. Matt Leivers from Wessex Archaeology and Phil Harding discuss the discovery in more detail and what the solstices may have meant to the Neolithic inhabitants of the area.
Matt, clearly the solstitial event was incredibly important to prehistoric peoples. It had significance, it had true meaning, didn't it?
The solstices, when we're talking about the solstices, what we're talking about is religion. We're talking about how these people in prehistory understood the cosmos and the world and their place in it, and how they thought they related to their spirits and gods and goddesses and all these kinds of things. And if you think about it, when you're a hunter-gatherer community or an agricultural community, everything you do depends on the sun. It depends on the sun being there when it's supposed to be there, not being there when it's not supposed to be there, and those cycles of things carrying on. Solstice, that word, it means when the sun stands still. And the summer solstice and the winter solstice are that point in the year when the sun is in the same place on the horizon for a few days. So it's the point where the year pauses, the turning of the year stops just briefly in the middle of summer and the middle of winter.
In itself, it's almost an elementary calendar then.
It's a way of keeping track of the passage of time. It is. And I think what things like your posts at Bulford and the celebrations that would have gone on there and what's happening here at Stonehenge and all those kinds of things, it's a way of celebrating that, but also of making sure that it keeps working for you. It's your way of saying to your deities, please keep us in mind and keep going and keep us warm and safe and fed and all those kinds of things. It's a direct religious event.
What astonishes me is just how many prehistoric monuments there are on the Salisbury Plain. Between roughly 4000 and 2500 BCE, the area became one of the most monument-rich regions in prehistoric Europe. Some of the earliest monuments were long barrows, large earthen or stone burial mounds built by some of Britain's first farming communities. These were followed by enormous earthworks known as Curzes monuments, including the Greater Curzes north of Stonehenge, a ditch and bank enclosure stretching almost 3 kilometres across the landscape. Although the purpose of Curzes monuments remains uncertain, they likely played a ceremonial role. As the Neolithic progressed, the landscape became increasingly complex. Timber circles, stone circles, pits, burial monuments and settlements appeared across the plain. Stonehenge itself began as a circular earthwork enclosure around 3000 BCE before evolving through multiple phases over the next 1,500 years. One of its most important features was the Stonehenge Avenue, a processional route defined by parallel banks and ditches that connected the monument to the River Avon. Archaeologists believe this avenue was deliberately aligned on the midsummer sunrise and midwinter solstice, reinforcing the solar symbolism found throughout the Stonehenge complex. The River Avon appears to have played a central role in the ceremonial landscape. Excavations have revealed that the avenue terminated at a location on the River Avon known as West Amesbury or Blue Stonehenge. Although little of this structure remains and nothing is visible above ground, investigations showed that it was made up of a henge and a stone circle, and it has been dated to between 3000 and 2400 BCE. Archaeologists think that Stonehenge, the West Amesbury Henge and the Durrington Walls were all part of a ceremonial procession that was funerary in nature. This research also reminds me of the Mesolithic site near Stonehenge in the old car park, where post holes were found that may have once contained timber poles forming some sort of an alignment. Other possible Mesolithic alignments have been found in other parts of England and Scotland. There's really no reason to think that an interest in the seasons and how to track them wouldn't stretch back very far in time, even though it can be difficult to find traces that have survived the millennia. Wessex Archaeology say that the discovery will be featured in an upcoming article for the newsletter of the Prehistoric Society and will also be included in a major publication on the findings from the Army Basing Programme to come out later this year. This will be made available for free via Wessex Archaeology's Open Library. So what do you think of the discovery at Bulford? I wonder how many ancient sites in the area are still yet to be uncovered. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.